But this passion actually started when I was really small, as my father was in the military, piloting war helicopters, and I would spend a lot of time in the cockpit just witnessing.
Scientists say that the Okavango Basin, which straddles parts of Angola, Namibia, and Botswana, is a vital ecological region that is crucial for supporting all kinds of wildlife, including some endangered species like elephants and lions. Angolan environmental anthropologist and the National Geographic Okavango Wilderness Project's country director, Kerllen Costa, tells me that the Okavango Delta, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is important for many other reasons, including providing sustenance to local communities through agriculture, fishing, and tourism. He talks to me about his work at the Okavango Wilderness Project and how he started out.
What initially drew you to this field of work, and how has your passion evolved over the years?
My life is taking a lot of different twists and turns, but this passion actually started when I was really small, as my father was in the military, piloting war helicopters, and I would spend a lot of time in the cockpit just witnessing the beautiful landscapes and connecting with a lot of rural people, understanding the beauty of traditions and cultures.
As the country director for Angola with the National Geographic Okavango Wilderness Project, you lead some major river expeditions in remote African landscapes. Can you share with us some of the most memorable moments or discoveries from these expeditions?
We've been going down rivers in remote parts of Angola since late 2015, and with those journeys you do find incredible moments with biodiversity. But I would say the most special moments have come with meeting people. Some people who are living in really remote parts and completely disconnected from the rest of the world. They have been sharing some astonishing stories about myths, traditions, cultures, and the way we should actually try and see the environment.
And so your work emphasizes the importance of incorporating traditional knowledge into conservation. How do you navigate the intersection between traditional ecological knowledge and scientific approaches, and what benefits do you see in this integration?
My vision and our objective as a project is really to try and show that these people that we find, these guardians as we call them, have been doing conservation for millennia. These pristine landscapes that we've been encountering are as pristine as they are because of these people's traditions and ways of seeing things. They have been protecting the environment. So with that kind of information and with us absorbing more and more, we want to try and not create new systems of conservation, not inducing systems of conservation that are coming from the outside, but actually elevate and recognize the already existing traditional systems of conservation.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about your involvement with the Great Angolan Escarpment Project, and some of the challenges you've faced during this initiative and the lessons you've learned from these experiences.
The Great Angolan Escarpment Project has actually started in 2010, more or less, because of a small passion for birds. This small passion for birds led us to see that in some patches of these very rare Afro-montane forests, there were 12 endemic species of birds that were being difficult to see and disappearing. And the initial purpose was to create reforestation efforts and protecting the forests. But we soon realized that there was so much more. There were variables in terms of social dynamics, the necessity for people to access resources, and we've shifted from just preserving birds and forests to actually absorb the knowledge of these people about their mountains, about their forests. I think one of the biggest obstacles has been to actually provide people with hope of alternative livelihoods, of alternative means of developing, because they're also allowed to develop. But at the same way, it's been gratifying because they've been sharing really ancestral traditions that have taught us, are keeping on teaching us how to improve our conservation perception.
Talk to us about the Angolan Highland Water Tower and the work you were doing around that.
The Angolan water tower actually is, as I like to describe it, one of Africa's best kept secrets. So basically, we're talking about a region of about 150,000 square kilometers that is host to the sources of most of Southern Africa rivers. Not only just the big ones, the iconic ones, but almost all of the rivers. So we're talking about one of the sources of the Congo River. We're talking about one of the sources or the source of the Zambezi River. We're talking about the source of the Okavango River. The Okavango actually doesn't exist in Angola. It's called Kuvango in Angola, Kavango in Namibia, and Okavango when it enters Botswana. So the water also comes from this place. And we're also talking about the source of the Kwanza, the biggest river of Angola that goes into the Atlantic Ocean. So because of the civil war, this area has in turn been protected for the past 40 years. That's why it's so pristine. And it's a special place because it's a unique opportunity to start preserving a place that is already preserved before it gets some sort of damage.
And your work involves engagement with communities in Angola, exploring their culture, traditions, and indigenous ecological knowledge. How do you foster, I guess, meaningful partnerships with these communities, and what strategies do you employ to ensure their voices are heard in conservation initiatives?
First of all, you need to form a relationship, and by forming a relationship, you need to be with the people. You need to go in to be with them and not to tell them things and not to tell them what to do. You need to first spend a few years
listening.
Listening. As I like to say, listening is the best way to feel, the best way to understand. And once you do that, people will also listen to you. And I think that's really the key. I don't think we can speak about conservation if we're not speaking about listening to people and enhancing their lifestyles, their traditions. And conservation should be a byproduct of elevating people.
How does your collaboration with the National Geographic or being a National Geographic Explorer advance your work?
So all the work that we do in Angola Water Tower wouldn't be possible without the association with National Geographic. National Geographic has provided this platform for us to be able to traverse these rivers, to get to these people, understand their traditions, and becoming or being recognized as an explorer will really elevate those possibilities, will give me and us access to a lot more tools, a lot more help, because we can't do it by ourselves, to really protect this place and its cultural heritage.
In your recent contributions to the Brookings Institution's Foresight Africa report, you discussed the importance of foresight and proactive approaches to conservation. How do you see the future of conservation efforts in Africa evolving, and what role do you envision playing in shaping this future?
Africa has given so much to the world for the past 100 years, especially in terms of protecting the environment. What the African continent does as an ecosystem is a lot for the world, and we haven't really had the opportunity to develop like other continents have. And so it's really the time for the other parts of the world to contribute to Africa and give back what Africa has given to the world. And the only way to do that is to look at economic terms. Again, you can only speak about conservation if the people are existing in a harmonious way, if they are allowed to develop harmoniously, and only then we can talk about conservation, though conservation in Africa has been done for a while because of the way we've preserving our traditions.
Now, in 2021, the Guardians of the River podcast, of which you contributed to, won the Tribeca Film Festival Best Non-Fiction Podcast Award. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your experience working on this project and how storytelling contributes to raising awareness about conservation issues?
So for the Guardians of the River podcast, it was really the physical manifestation of the desire to show that there is tradition. Tradition has been preserving the environment, and there is also conservation. And how can we connect both? How can we elevate tradition and show that it is also a way of conserving the environment? Really, the podcast is a translation of our scientific data, of everything that we discover in terms of science, But science cannot be useful if you're not translating it into useful information, and that's where storytelling is so important, just like African oral tradition.
Absolutely. And finally, conservation work, as you know, often involves interdisciplinary collaboration. How do you leverage your background in biology and environmental anthropology to address some of these complex conservation conversations and challenges effectively?
I think I'll do a little bit like the elders do. They speak with analogies. So some lecturers will tell you that a degree in a university is just proof that you can learn. So even if you have a degree in biology or mathematics or a PhD, you're just showing that you have the ability to learn. And there are other ways to show that you have the ability to learn. So understanding that knowledge, and like the elders say, there was an elder asking, why is this scientist looking at this bird? I was like, no, he's trying to understand the bird. Yeah, but he's only looking at the bird. He's like, yeah, so he can understand the bird. It's like, you'll not understand anything else because he's focused on the bird, and the bird is interacting with another million things. So really, we can't do just one thing. We have to look at things holistically and again, listen, because everything is interconnected.
Absolutely. I just read recently, I think it was actually yesterday, this quote that said, don't let your schooling interfere with your education.
That's true. We say that education is not going to school. No, that's not education. Education is learning. And there's a million ways of learning. And in the African continent, there's no difference between the knowledge that you get as a person with your elders, your grandfather, your great-grandfathers throughout your life.
And your interaction with the community around you.
And the university. So I would say that a 70-year-old elder in Africa has the equivalent of 50 PhDs.
Absolutely. Agree. Kerllen, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.